I suffer for my art. Now it's your turn.
How are you? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm very good. Sort of, still puppy training, but I don't know who's training who. I think the puppy's training us to do what she wants, and we're trying to catch up. Because there's always that week where you think you've got it all good. She's starting to pee on the mats.
No.
Now she's peeing around the mats. And as I take the other dog out for a walk, she's looking at the door going, I want to go out there.
Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
You know, Abby, our older cat, the one that was the star of the last episode, she's 16, so she doesn't walk great. And the litter boxes were always upstairs.
Ooh.
And we didn't notice, but if you look behind me, I don't know if you can see the drum kit. You probably can't. I'll split the video.
You used to be able to see it.
Well, you could see it when we're not in split screen.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Anyway, she started using the drum rug as her toilet.
Oh.
Which was really fun to discover that. And so that drum rug was disposed of. And actually, we put it out with the garbage and someone took it. So,
oh, really?
Surprise. And we put a litter box down here for her. So poor thing.
Yeah, I mean, they get, they try their hardest. Nothing like a little cat turd to sort of,
it was just
flavor the air.
It was, it wasn't great. It was my wife that found it because I hadn't been on the drum set for a little while. And I think at first she might have thought it was me. No, hopefully not.
I think the rifling's a little smaller than your big anus.
Oh, so,
yeah.
We've had some really, really good interaction from our new friends on the I Suffer for My Art, Now It's Your Turn YouTube channel. And I thought what might be fun today is to go through the VCBs.
Okay, yeah.
And VCB stands for Viewer Comment Board.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's a direct steal from David Letterman, right?
Really?
Isn't that what he used to call it?
Oh, yeah.
Viewer comment section, viewer comment board. But we have some good ones. We have some good questions here. And what do you think? You want to jump into them? And
yeah, maybe we can definitely do that. Starting off with comments from our VCB.
Right. And don't forget, so if you're watching this, I get all the stats and I'm like a tech guy. So 67% of you are not subscribing. So please subscribe. If you subscribe, that helps the channel, helps us make more of these, helps the YouTube algorithm spread the word. And so by all means, if you're watching it and you're enjoying it, subscribe, right? It doesn't cost you anything. Right, Sarah?
Yeah, I was wondering why. I'm guilty of not subscribing quite often when I watch other things. And then I think, why don't I subscribe? Because there's a sort of a thought like, what am I signing up for? There's some hidden thing. But now that we're in the sort of other side of the market, I realize that there's nothing. It's just a light on YouTube.
I think I was a bit like that too. And certainly not now. I subscribe to everything. I had to learn. I had to subscribe to channels on how to do what we're doing. And, so there's so much to learn and it's such a great resource out there. So now I do subscribe to most everything and give likes and stuff. Cause it really does. If there's not a lot of subscriptions or a lot of likes, the YouTube algorithm just kind of shelves it because they're in the business of, getting people to watch videos, obviously. So I'm learning more and more about this and it's pretty fascinating. Mm-hmm. But we have some great comments and I can't read them with these glasses on. Anyway, Stacy Carmody. Do you know Stacy?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, she's great. She had left us a few comments here. She's really terrific interacting. And she enjoyed my comment about the your grown crotch goblins. And she asked me if I was CFBC by choice, and I had no idea what that meant. CFBC, but it means child-free by choice.
Oh.
And yes, I am child-free by choice. My wife would argue that she has one child, being me. But yes, we are child-free by choice. And thank you, Stacy, for teaching me a new acronym today. I didn't know if it was some kind of LGBTQ thing or, I wasn't sure. So I Googled it. Thank God for the Google, right?
Yeah, we do live in a world of acronyms because people, there's only so many word space in a little comment box these days. So we're all acronym savvy.
Well, and it's become a real thing with texting, right?
Yeah, isn't that a town in Ohio acronym?
Akron.
Oh, there you go.
Not acronym. Akron, Ohio.
Yeah,
it's where Chrissy Hine from The Pretenders is from.
That's right.
And my
I
folks
always remember being in Akron, Ohio in October 1987. We were on tour and then we'd just sort of been learning about the Kent State history. And then it was that black week when the stock market completely tanked. Do you remember that in 87 where it just went doo?
I was probably less dialed into it then than I certainly am now, but I do remember.
Yeah, it was like Armageddon of the financial world.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Many. And then last week, when the markets tanked again, somebody was likening last week like the harbinger of what happened back then. I was like, ooh, no, God.
Well, I hope not. I mean, they didn't, what happens if the market falls so far, it hits what they call a circuit breaker and trading is halted. So it didn't hit that the other day. It tanked the Dow tanked about 1,100 points. Of course, I'm more dialed into that now because, in 87, I didn't have any money and now I have a little bit in the markets and things like that. So I pay more attention, but I don't know. I'm not, it's been going up for so long that, it needs to correct at some point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to jump out of that plane that's going up.
No.
So high. I mean, it's going to be a long parachute ride down. And if I was a lemming, I paid way too much for this parachute and I still don't know where and when I'm going to land.
It's the long game, man. Long game.
Yeah. I don't think we've got that long because the oceans are boiling, aren't they? Literally.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that could be good for the market. You never know. The market's completely irrational. It behaves like a hormonal 13-year-old,
Notice that it's like panic.
And I've learned that, no one can call it, right? Everyone thinks they know where it's going. No one knows where it's going. You know what I mean? All the gurus, believe me, I've followed them all and no one really knows,
Absolutely right. Well, I don't know because I don't really.
Yeah.
I do care because the ripples and the effects of that market affect my life, but I don't have a dollar riding on any particular investments. I've invested or lost most of my money in investing in me. And divorces.
Indexes are the safe way to, I think, go, if you want advice from a guy who knows next to nothing. But, over time, the indexes are going up and, they fluctuate. It's like an escalator, they kind of go up and down, but over time, they continue to go up. So that's probably the safest way.
All I care about is, I thought about buying Apple shares, but then now I wonder if I'll actually be alive when the iPhone 25 is due to
Apple shares. I don't know what kind of hit there. I turned my phone off. I was going to check. I own some Apple, but I owned it. I've owned it for a long time. I bought Apple initially at $23, 15 or 20 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And I bought it for about $24 or something. And I sold it for $30, thinking I was a genius.
Yeah.
Where if I would have just held on to it,
I don't know what
I'd be doing this from my helipad right now.
Yeah. It's a race against the maggots.
All right. Back to the VCBs. Enough about the depressing stock market. Greg Blanchard. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, I know Greg.
You know Greg? He sent some great comments. He said, loving these conversation, guys. Some random questions for Cy. Cy, are you still a vegan? And if so, do you struggle to find good, nutritious vegan meals when you're on the road?
I am not a vegan 100%, though I do enjoy a good vegan meal every now and then. And since the time that I was 100% vegan, I've noticed that the market has responded with there's much more product out there. One thing that really has weirded me out though is when you're a vegan, you don't want anything to do with meat or any living kind of animal protein. So why do they make a vegan sausage to remind you of what meat eaters are eating, or a vegan burger? Because, okay, it's so that you don't stand out at the barbecue and you look like you're doing the normal thing of shoving something that everyone can, and doesn't bombard you with like, oh, like he's got a face full of lentils or like a bush. You know, there's a weird thing about being a vegan. So I don't hold to that regime anymore, but I don't eat red meat. I do eat a little chicken and little fish, but we do, we bounce around vegan most of the time because it's better for you and keeps the waistline in place.
Do you remember Zen Palette in New York?
Yeah.
Loved that restaurant.
That was amazing.
That was one of the first places where I ever had like vegetarian, like tofu proteins and different things like that really resembled meat.
Yeah. We used to go out for dinner with a few buddies of mine there, and it was like they didn't sell meat, but they sure sold it out of alcohol.
I mean, Deb and I always feel guilty, like eating things with a face. And so we do less of it now, but we're not quite, in the vegetarian vegan league yet. I think we're approaching it mostly because, the more you see like Facebook videos of these cows cuddling with their owner, things like that, it makes you really not want to eat meat anymore. Or at least for me.
It's more to do with the quality of the food and the cleanliness of it and the chemicals that are in it and how it growth hormones and all that stuff. But if you can find really good grass-fed stuff, try and find a really healthy patch of grass without topsoil having been
you're still eating something cute with a face.
Yeah, might as well eat each other.
That's a topic for another time. But anyway, Greg continues. Stephen W. Taylor is one of my favorite recording mixing engineers. What's it like working with him, and how integral has he been to the actual fixed sound?
Steve is everything. He just celebrated 50 years in the record business, and I saw yesterday he posted himself outside of Trident Studios photo where he first started walking in looking for a job. That man has an ability to find the nut of a song and how to capture it in a way that the parts don't hide each other. They celebrate each other. And he was a guy that really understood what compression can do to sound and guitars. And so when Jamie came along and had those certain parts, the compression sound that he was able to build up, especially on songs like Stand or Fall, gave birth to a whole technique that Jamie then developed and took it out on the road and made it his own. But it really started in Farmyard Studios with Steve really showing him how compression worked.
Like those first two hits in Stand or Fall.
Yeah.
Which made every guitar player's ears stand on end when that came out, because no one had ever heard anything quite like that.
That's exactly right. And then he was also really good at building, as we did songs, you had it was a 2-inch tape back then. He would bounce tracks together. So you would have 16 tracks of vocals early on before you've done the final mix. He would mix them into a stereo pair and commit. Early on, these days, you can just leave tracks open, have 150 tracks flying around. He was able to commit, and his kind of sonic gamble always paid off. Like it always would fit great in the mix. I mean, we didn't know any other way because we don't know what it would have sounded like if he hadn't done that. But he gave us a confidence, and also when we were mapping out songs, we could imagine the parts were thought up to do the jobs that he showed us they could do. So the minimal sound of the fix was definitely created by him introducing us to
And he's still involved to this day, right?
Yeah, he just recorded and produced our last record every 5 seconds. He mixed Beautiful Friction, and he's done every record that we've put out.
Is he on Facebook?
Yeah, he is.
I'm going to try to friend him. Steven, if you see my friend request, please accept it, because your records are brilliant, and I'd love to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, and he's still working really hard down at Real World, so yeah, busy guy.
And he has one more, Greg has one more part to his question. He wants to know, Cy, do you have any cool stories of when the Fix opened up for the police? Boy, that was something else. And did you get to hang out with those crazy geniuses and get to know them at all?
Yes, I do have many, many stories, too many to bore you all with now. But suffice to say, when we did open up for them, it was at a pivotal point of our careers. We were just expanding from playing, a year before we'd been playing to 300 people in England. The next thing you know, we're opening up for them in front of 80,000 people on Day in the Green in San Francisco. So the one story I really remember pertains to that gig, Day on the Green. A lot of people in California remember that day, especially around here where I live. During our set, there was a food fight, and people were throwing paper plates in the air. So there was a sea of people and a sea of paper plates just bouncing around. And I was so taken aback by it. And where I was in my mind, I thought it was people throwing their souls. And because I'd also already hit the mushroom fields.
I was going to say.
Before the show. So what I was seeing was quasi-religious. So this was going on. The plates are flying. But the funny thing is, Rupert Hine, who was on tour with us at the time, was up in the gantry taking photos. And he came down and he said, "Did you see that? That was quasi-religious." And I said, "What?" I said, "Are you shrooming too?" And he goes, "No." So I went,
What was Rupert Hine doing on the tour? Was he just hanging around, or was he?
Yeah, he was enjoying the rush. I mean, he produced the album Reach the Beach. So there we were zooming up the charts. He was there to enjoy some of the glory of his work.
Yeah. And I mean, at that point, the Police were like the biggest band in the world. And so that was a massive, massive tour.
Yeah. So I did get to hang out with them. Sting, I had quite a few conversations about minimalism, and he had, they had Every Breath You Take, number one. We had Saved by Zero or something was high up, or one thing was doing well, but I was talking about Saved by Zero because he was reading a book about minimalism and stuff like that. So we had a real heady Buddhist chat about how two pretentious Englishmen find themselves being incredibly zen around a coffee table in some Four Seasons hotel. I look back on it and I think, yeah, he's a stand-up dude.
Have you run into him since those days?
Yeah, I've run into him a few times. We were involved in that One World, One Voice project.
Right.
You remember that with Steve Taylor, where he went around the world with one groove that Sting had started, and then all these musicians from all different countries added a little bit, and then Steve mixed it into a 22-minute piece of music. It was incredible. Sting was there. We were there at the studio when he just laid down his thing and started the whole journey off. So, I mean, he's an amazing songwriter. I have a lot of respect for how he works. Personalities, I liked Stuart Copeland's personality a little bit more on a daily basis. He was down to earth, and he was almost like a dragonfly.
Yeah, he's a bundle of energy. I just saw a really interesting interview with him where he says back in those days when they were, the Synchronicity tour and before that, he was so wrapped up in what he was doing, he didn't even realize how brilliant Sting was until later when he really listened to the songs. He was so absorbed in his own parts and his own playing that he, and I found that to be an interesting comment and probably true of a lot of drummers. Yeah, and a very honest insight because the two of them didn't really get on. No, they did not, according to him. I know they didn't get on. And so, with time, you do realize, your own shortcomings can sometimes block friendships. That was a good.
It robbed us of the sixth Police album, I guess. But who knows? They all went on to do interesting things anyway.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Sting anyway? Did he ever do anything after that? No, I'm just kidding.
Nah,
I saw his first solo tour in Cleveland. It was tremendous.
Yeah.
Really good. All right. So Evangelina 3988 commented on when we were talking about casinos and the old people gambling their Social Security.
Oh, yeah.
And she made the comment, they only put that problem 1-800-GAMBLER on there because they're required by law. And I thought to myself, it's kind of like your crack dealer showing up and giving you a pamphlet on drug abuse as he delivers your crack.
Yeah.
And,
this is what you can't stay away from. But if you have trouble stay away from me. But here's the phone number.
It's true. We're here to help you, but we also want to take all your money. But so I found that comment pretty funny.
Yeah, the mixed messaging of the modern world, eh?
Right. And Reverse Fulfillment 9189 says that he loved hearing our discussion about substance abuse. He's currently on Your Path sign, no booze for almost a year. He'll puff a little oil vape, but a 1 gram cart will last him over a month. He's loving these chats. Thanks, bro. So thanks for your comment and good job, man. Keep it up.
Yeah. Good luck with your rediscovery of a higher energy that exists au natural.
And you're still on that thing too, right? Since the last time we talked.
On the minus. Yeah, I haven't had a drink. And every time I go out shopping, there's more things to support that. There's even now cocktails without alcohol. So I'm starting to make this. I go to Trader Joe and buy this spicy mango juice. And then that's the basis of a drink. So it's a third of that and a third of this Wilderwood red bitters, which is almost like Campari. Throw a bit of that in. Bit of Pellegrino, some ice. And it has everything I want from a sort of a savory, bitter drink.
Have you tried any of the hemp-infused non-alcoholic liquors?
No, because I'm trying to stay away from buzzes.
Right.
It's like I get enough buzzes in my speakers. And I'm always trying to
it's pretty mild. I bought a bottle to try it. And I'm not a cocktail drinker anyway. But I bought a bottle just because I was curious. And it's sort of like CBD. You don't really get a buzz. It's just a slight calming effect, I guess, without really being affected, like if you were to drink a regular cocktail.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what affects me the most. It's like a placebo thing is when I drink the 0% Guinness, it just makes me feel happy.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like the vegan sausage. I don't stand out in a pub for being a wimp.
Vegan sausage. All right. Skyrunner left this following comment. I'm enjoying the shuttered room. I assume they're referring to the one where you were the puppet in the cage.
Oh, yeah.
I'm enjoying the Shuttered Room episode. I've always said the Fix is a fan's band. They don't need to keep touring, but they do. I'm glad my teen daughters got to see a show. It was at a mall and probably the most I've ever paid to see them. What was cool is that it was the first time I got to hear The Fool live. I often enjoyed hanging out with the band before or after the show. I was early to an Elemental show and had a beer with Rupert. I play keyboards and collect vintage synths due to his influence, so it was very surreal. My first show was them opening up the Synchronicity tour in Utica. We were just talking about that. I think the band got snowed in there and had nothing to do. Is that true? Did you get snowed in on the Synchronicity tour?
Actually, it was the Synchronicity tour, but we weren't playing with the Police. That was a college date. And we had some manager that was obsessed with planes. So he insisted that we do this sort of northeastern leg in the winter in some small private plane.
Terrible idea.
And I shit you not, it was like the plane was hanging from a thread and someone was just tapping the wing because it was going like this through the air. That's my Utica memory. Pretty scary, but still
touring those markets in the winter is not for the faint of heart. And I've always hated doing it. The one show, one of the shows here I did used to do in Las Vegas as the tech director, I would also take the show out on fly-ins. And what would happen is the agents would book those markets in those months because there was a lot more openings for shows. Just hit my mic. And it's never again. I mean, you're flying into Chicago during the polar vortex. It's minus 30. You just never know when you're going to get stranded or,
Yeah, I mean,
slaughtered.
right now it's perplexing because you don't want to tour in the summer because it's too damn hot and the bus AC is straining like crazy. You're burning so much fuel just to keep the AC running when you're parked outside. It's like 120 outside and you're like going, what the F? And then you switch that, hey, let's tour in the winter. Then you're snowed in January. So it just pretty much leaves spring and fall. So that's like where we're trying to do it. But now it's getting very crowded because a lot of people are thinking we need to tour in the spring and the fall and avoid the extremes.
Yeah. Well, it's shed season, right? And I've always hated those shows, both as a fan and when I was playing and touring. You're outside most of the day. Yeah, you're in a trailer or a bus or something with air conditioning, but it's so hot, especially in the Midwest. It's so humid. The poor crew guys are dying.
Yeah.
I have several friends that are out on big shed tours right now. And, it's not for the faint of heart.
No, I mean, the reason those shed tours work is they put a lot of bands on the bill. So there's a lot of turnovers. And so they're getting bums off the seats, go to buy merch and consume more vegan sausages or something. And they kind of like got to keep you getting out of your seat every hour or every 40 minutes. That Coke machine is like pumping Coke because that's where the money is for the event.
Right.
They pay the band, obviously, and the ticket goes there, but the real profit comes from all the merch and all the stuff.
All the concessions, beer.
Yeah.
Last shed tour I saw you guys on was with, I think it was with Berlin Outfield.
Oh,
I can't remember. It was in Cleveland. You remember that? Years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
At Blossom Music Center.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was Asia, was there?
Maybe. I mean, I spent most of the time in the bus with you guys until you played. But
yeah, I mean,
I know Berlin played. I know the Outfield played.
Yeah, for me, I've always felt the frustration of the fans because if your diehard fans come wherever they come from, they paid top dollar to see you, and you're doing a limited set.
Right.
They kind of always piss and moan, and I don't blame them. They're like, oh, they didn't really get into it, and so.
Well, you get like 45 minutes, so it's kind of like a hit set, right?
Yeah. So in a way, those shed tours worked for us to sell the long shows that we do because people know they're going to get a full set and then they get their fix, no pun intended.
Correct.
It just turns out being just singing the hits, which that's fun. We fly the flag. And as I said in a past interview, there's a lot of people out there that still don't know who we are up behind the songs.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to pepper them with an array of hits, and they go, "Oh man, I didn't know they had all those hits."
Yeah,
and then they turn up to a real show.
Yeah, I've experienced that with lots of friends I've taken to your shows.
Yeah, man.
All right, so Obi Mom Kenobi.
How many of these are there?
There's a lot. People that interact. I think it's great, right?
Yeah, it's really good.
Obi Mom Kenobi says that she loved Minnesota fabrics as a child. Well, then you should have been my mother's daughter.
There you go.
I wonder if my mother has seen that episode yet where I talk about that. I haven't gotten an angry phone call.
Yeah, really.
She also owns a Cywear hat. So that's a collector's item.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that came from many a minute spent in a fabric.
I don't even have one. And she has seen the Fix in Michigan 3 times. She made a large black and white banner of the band members to give to them, drew portraits of Cy and Jamie.
Wow. I remember that, actually.
I very much enjoyed those simple days 40 years ago. That can't be right. Oh, so she's just going, oh my God, 40 years ago, which is true. So thank you for that comment. This is a good one. Brett Hutchinson, 5710. Do you know Brett? Did we already mention him? No, that was somebody else.
No.
This is a good one. U2, REM, In Excess, The Police, and The Fix. Then and now, that's how I'd respond when someone asked me what kind of music I was into or what bands influenced my own band. Sure, there were others, The Cars, XTC, Simple Minds, The Cure, Psychedelic Furs, but that's how I would and will respond. I wonder what my 80s self would have thought if I could tell him that U2 and The Fix are the last bands standing from today from that five. The Police burned so hot, so fast, they flamed out. REM ran out of gas. Michael Hutchinson got head hurt and checked out of his life early. The excellent conversations here have me wondering which team makes the last noise, U2 or The Fix. It would bring a big smile to my face if the Boys from London were the last band standing.
Oh, that's
it's a great one.
It is a great one, though I don't wish any ill on U2 because...
Oh, I don't think that's what he means. I think bands break up or they retire. And
we shared the stage at the Marquee with U2 2 weeks consecutive. On the first time, they opened for us, and then the next week, we opened for them. And I remember Adam had the foresight to bring beer to the gig because they didn't give the bands beer back then. So he brought like 2 6-packs of German beers, put them in the dressing room, and U2 didn't have any. So Adam, the drummer, and then the drummer from U2 were like, "Oh, you can have a beer." So they were sharing the beers. And so I always remember that story because our paths kind of wandered off, and they did Band-Aid live. We didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that harkens back to that line in the Queen movie where he goes, "Nobody wants to wake up and say they turned Live Aid down."
Right.
Well, we did. And I
wasn't going to bring that up because I know that's a sore subject.
It's a sore subject, but I talk about it. It makes me feel better because we were hoodwinked into it and we had to finish the album and everyone had like agendas and it kind of snuck up on us. But it is, if there's one regret that eats away at me, and then I was watching it and then I saw U2 singing their Sunday Bloody, and I was like, oh, go man. They went and hit the huge highs. And I wonder, had we hit those huge highs, whether I'd still be standing here?
Well, that's a good question.
Delivering a monologue about why the Fix is still together. Because
that's a good question. I mean, you know, it's hindsight. No one could have predicted that festival was going to change those bands in that regard. You know, it was pretty incredible.
Well, I'll tell you one thing it didn't change is there's still hungry people in Ethiopia.
Well, yeah.
And, you know, the kind of essence of that and the beautiful thing showed the power of music. But in the end, when I saw the sacks of grain that were arriving in Ethiopia being sort of traded off by the black market and stolen by the gangs over there, and then you kind of made me a little cynical. And I had a conversation with Bob Geldof a couple of years after that, and he'd become very cynical about the world because on the back of this beautiful moment and the unifying all the musicians and the power and the television and everything that it got, it still kind of meant this little blip and business as usual in Africa.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, not that it's some sour grapes that had we done it or not, the outcome would have been any different. But, you know, U2 and the Fix still are flying there for, you know, relevant flags. That's a good question, man. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a really good one. And this is a final comment from Stacy again. I love how involved she is. She's really seems like a smart lady, and I really enjoy her comments. She said she's talking about the Netflix documentary that we were talking about with the dancers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She says, okay, now that I got to watch the Netflix doc, I'm fascinated by cults. For Scientology, Going Clear, another good one, is a good documentary. I watched that as well. Cults find out what your weakness is and prey on it, whether it's a desire to be successful, to be accepted, to belong, to escape from your unhappiness, etc. They lure you in little by little, pushing the envelope more and more. Cults never admit they're a cult. Scientology treats their celebrity members differently than the average member. They are given properties, luxury treatment, and money while their average members go into debt. So many people are ruined, and it's sad. Some groups are cultish, but not full of cults. Are the Fixtures a cult? And then she says, just kidding.
Yeah, really.
But they are hardcore fans.
Yeah, but that we don't have any. I mean, the doctrine is a collective more than a finger pointing. Everyone is welcome. Everyone has their own interpretations. And in fact, I learn more about what my songs mean from the fans than I know myself, because it's the connection that makes a song speak. And for example, I said it earlier, but Saved by Zero is a sort of a stage door song that I've heard so many different versions of people in different walks and different times of their lives, how that particular lyric hit them. And it's sort of gone on beyond my original meaning. So I feel that is not a cult, but it's a tool of awakening.
Sure.
And it's sort of
well, that's the beauty of it. It's all of these things are open to the listener's interpretation.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a bummer to get the real story because it shifts your head from what it meant to you. Do you know what I mean?
I've learned to sort of, you see that person telling you their story with excitement. I go, and then they say, what does it mean to you? And I say, well, it just means, I run out of money or something. And they're like, oh.
In a way, video sort of ruined music in that regard,
Yeah. Looked like a hit.
Not for every band. Obviously, it helped a lot more bands than it hurt. But
did it?
For the listener's imagination, well, it made bands very popular quickly. So in that regard, I think it helped. It brought new music to the United States, in the early days of MTV. But I think it did definitely hurt in the regard of when you would sit and listen to a record, you made your own picture in your head. And now you were given this video that may have nothing to do with the song at all. It may have something to do with the song, but it's different than what you had in your head.
Yeah.
And I didn't love that personally.
From a band perspective, I remember reading, I think it was Mick Fleetwood who said, before MTV or before videos, people didn't recognize the band members. They only heard them playing, and it would be sort of the press, the odd photo here, so the Beatles and the Stones, they had high recognition factor, but the rest were kind of anonymous and through their sound. Then all of a sudden everybody starts looking like a hit and they go, oh. And I even noticed that walking down the street in LA, you'd get, hey, it's like Curnin. And then you realize that, talking back to the word cult, the cult of personality, just because your face has sort of been burned into someone's visual retina, you've suddenly got a place in their memory that is almost as big as the music that you were doing in the beginning. And the thing you only really want to trade is the song. So that the cult of personality was born a long time before MTV, because television, Elvis on the Ed Sullivan Show, Beatles on Ed Sullivan Show, it was brewing and coming up, and movie stars had it before then. But now it just has been blazoned into the fact where people start to identify with the visual side of people. And then they all want to look the same, the Botox, the plastic surgery, the forever young thing, the buff, the beautiful, the white teeth.
I mean, made even bigger by social media.
Yeah, even this.
Like blown up even more.
Yeah,
right?
Where's it go? Are we all going to end up being like, we all have to look like God, who's an old white man?
Yeah. I don't have much of a choice but to look like an old white man, but...
Yeah, I don't think God is an old white man. I think he's the face of the faceless. He's the voice of the voiceless, and he's an imprint. And that isn't a cult. That is a search within. Does it exist? Doesn't it exist? Whole question for another 5-hour topic. But the question remains, is people try and steal a little piece of the search and give you an answer that is bullshit. But if you're at a place in your life where you're broken, that little piece is all you need to just give you the morale to go on to tomorrow. And then next thing you know, they're putting their hands in your pockets and you're giving it all to them because you're like that drug dealer. You're addicted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Well, that like Stacy's comment,
Yeah.
They prey on people searching for something.
Exactly right. Well done, Stacey.
Well, that concludes the VCB section of our program, which I thought was really nice. Keep the questions and comments coming. I'll keep up with them as best I can. Don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. And, we've got some exciting stuff coming up at the end of the month. We can't talk about it, but I think that if we can make that happen, we're going to have some happy Fix fans out there.
Yeah, we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
As an Englishman in America, I'll say a word and people will say, excuse me, what? Like I'll say, do you have some herbs that I could put on this, the herb rack? So I think I goes, herb? Don't you mean herbs? And I was like, yeah, herbs. And then there's next to it was oh, look, it comes in an aluminium bottle.
Oh God, like Debbie. My wife, for those that don't know, my wife is British too. Yeah. And same.
You get it.
Same thing. I've been around it for so long, and sometimes it rubs off on me, and I say those things,
Yeah. You know what? My funny one is, you say tomato, I say tomato. When I go to a restaurant now, I say tomato. And they go,
what do you say?
I say tomato.
What is that? That's not British.
Exactly. It's
so you're just making up your own dialect now?
I'm making up my own dialect. Then kind of just get a laugh just to send myself up. But I do know that herbe, the French, that's how they say it, herbe. So just reminded me that the French were trolling around in these sunny states as much as the English were, and their sort of way of talking with the Arcadians kind of infused a little twang into the language.
Ah.
So, and they were definitely instrumental in getting rid of old King George, weren't they?
At least you're from London, and so you have a posh British accent.
Nah.
It's more so than my wife from up north, who just went to England to visit her family and came back, and I couldn't even understand her.
Yeah.
Up near Manchester. But funny. Yeah, she enjoys calling me a gobshite and the C word that is not acceptable here in America. Yeah. She'll call me a silly C word, like affectionately, and I have to remember that that's not acceptable here. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Funny thing about England, it's a very small country, right? But you only have to drive 1 hour down the road and the accent's completely
Isn't it
changed.
Unbelievable?
Over here, you have to drive like for hours.
Yeah.
But the accent will change, and it's, it shows you the evolution of the spoken word and how someone with a bad lisp has now become part of the pronunciation for the millions.
Yeah, I've never had a hard time understanding you or any of the guys from down London area, but sometimes when I go up north with Deb, she has to translate for me.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different kind of dialect.
Yeah, I get that with Glasgow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have some amazing fans from Glasgow. Just met them last March at the London show. God bless them. And they were getting us to come up there. And I think we are going up to Glasgow or something.
Yeah, you are. I saw it on your tour page.
Can't wait. But I'm going to have to buff up on my pronunciations because there's some words that I just have no idea what. I'm going to be signing up for God knows where I'll end up if I say yes.
Just don't wear the wrong sports color.
No, I'll just wear black.
Take that seriously up there.
Yeah, it'll be black.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with black. It's all I ever wear.
Yeah.
That should have been in the Munsters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So, and the other word that's like, we say, who knew? And you guys say, who knew? Who knew?
Oh, I remember when we were doing your record, you had whilst in a lyric, and I made you change it.
Yeah.
Because it was so British sounding. Not sure why, but you did it.
I think the S, I made me realize the ST was a bit like, psst. And
I forget the song, but you kept singing whilst, and I'm like,
yeah.
I asked you to switch it, and you actually didn't fight me.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd sing whilst now.
Yeah.
My false teeth might fall out.
I mean, I say it, so like living with a British lady, lady. She'll kill me for calling her a lady. A British girl for 20 years.
The way she addresses you, that's no lady.
Living with a British lady for 20 years, these things rub off on you, you know?
Yeah, man. We were talking about Amazon last week and how it's kind of killed the neighborhood high street. But Santa Cruz is now full of secondhand vintage clothes stores.
That's great.
Where people are just repurposing their clothes, which I think is a really good thing because
the price is outrageous.
Well, if you're selling an old pair of pants, you get like 2 cents. Not that I tried, but I can imagine. And then the prices for a decent set of pants or something, they were up there, but not too bad. Like $10 for a pair of jeans.
That's not bad. I mean, where are you going to get a pair of jeans for $10 at a regular retail store?
But when I say a few stores, there's literally 15 stores all selling different styles of secondhand clothes. And I think maybe what's happening is the landlords are giving them a deal on the rent so they can come in and get a footprint just because it makes the place look alive.
Well, it's Santa Cruz is a bit of an artsy enclave anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more prone to that, I think. No?
Yeah. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking some of my weird shirts down there, sell them off for nothing, and then see where they turn up. See who's wearing, hey, that's my shirt.
Maybe I'll show up wearing one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we have some good thrift stores here, but they're the bigger kind, and they do these like Monday, buy something, get another thing for a penny. My wife loves that stuff. I don't think she has an outfit that collectively costs more than $9.
Yeah, I mean,
she's
you
a
get
huge thrift store fan, and not the trendy. I'm talking about where you got to dig through all the dead people's stuff to get to anything good. You know,
I mean, in a way, that is something you can really do that's actually enjoyable for, repurposing the clothes. A lot of the big brands, I wonder how their carbon offsets or footprints are working with, or dyeing and the sort of shipping and the price of cotton and all this stuff. So to recycle this stuff is actually a really good step forward. And as it's becoming part of the younger market, I'm wondering whether brands will just fight to buy up secondhand clothes and just stick their own labels on it.
Well, there are plenty of sites that are charging a premium for secondhand stuff. It's, unlike these thrift stores where, you got to really hunt for something, but you don't want to pay more than retail for something that's used, do you?
No.
Terrible.
Yeah, really. I knew this guy in New York when I was doing the hat business right at the very beginning. His name was Johnny Calvani, and he was like a real player in the garment business. He used to sort of be very friendly with Jack Nicholson, and when Jack Nicholson would come to town, he'd sort of take care of him. And had part of that whole entourage. And he was trying to get Jack to start a clothing line. And so I remember him going out and buying cheapest little polo shirts he could find from Macy's. And then he asked the guy that was helping me with my hats where he could get a little pair of Ray-Bans as the logo embroidered on the shirt. And so they would cut the label out, put this little Ray-Ban embroidered, and then he'd be trying to, every time Jack would come to town, he'd be like, come on, Jack, this is really what you want to be doing. And he'd be like, Jack would be like, yeah, no, I'd rather be just because he'd be like, he didn't want anything to do with it. But this Calvani was so whipping it. And of course, at the time, I was trying to get my hat business going. So I was like, oh, this guy's a wizard. I think we'll start doing a bit of this, bit of that. And he did introduce me to a few odd players because the garment business is a little bit cutthroat, especially in New York.
I'm sure it is. I mean, people don't, any business like that. Fashion? Are you kidding? It's gotta be.
They're dying now because of these secondhand stores.
Yeah.
So back to that. All you got to do is go and buy a load of secondhand clothes and start sewing your little brand emblem on it. Cut all the labels out and put something that's a little, ooh or R on it, and you've got a whole brand.
Speaking of which, we should do a T-shirt of our little mascot.
Yeah, we should.
That's a cool little mascot.
Yeah, we definitely should. I've got one actually.
How'd you get one?
I had it made.
How do you have one and I don't have one? You didn't think to make me one?
Well, I made it a long time ago.
Oh, before you knew me 25 years ago?
Yeah, the little artwork was designed. It was a little drawing that Julian, Tisha's last youngest son.
Oh, so it was recently.
You know that remarkable thing you told her to play?
Yeah, I have one.
So he did this little sketch on there of that guy. And I just fell in love with that little image. It was just like a fallen little guy. Just, I'll try to get it better next time.
I love it too. I don't know why.
And to know Julian's personality, it's like an extension of him. And I thought, you know what? Yeah. So when I was on tour, I had a T-shirt made of that thing to wear it on his birthday. I couldn't get home, so I just put it on. So I sent him a picture of me on stage with it on his birthday. I don't know if he noticed, but I think he did. And it stuck around. And then I just thought, this little guy is that feeling, like try again. I suffer from my art,
it was so right that I didn't even give it a second thought. When you sent it to me, I just made the logo. And it was like, that's part of what I loved about this whole thing is we have not thought anything through. We've just kind of gotten on and done what we wanted. And we don't, we would love people to listen, but we don't care, Yeah,
exactly. We just keep going. It's like, okay, let's do one. And then, we've got to do another one. And do another one.
Well, we would be talking this gobshite anyway, wouldn't we? To quote my wife.
Yes,
we were having these conversations on FaceTime anyhow, so might as well record them and bore people with them.
I mean, it's fun to literally get out of your head with a conversation.
Agree.
You make me think odd things, and
this is some of the most human interaction I have during the week.
Yeah.
I don't get out much.
I mean, we're all in this together. Who knows where it's going? We don't even know why we're here. No. So in terms of, the magic carpet ride, it might as well be hopeful. Might as well be a dreamscape. When the dream is over, you wake up. And when you wake up, if it has a smile, and then there's a little bit of positivity that just you can spread it onto the next person. Maybe the key will fit the door for a change, and you will be able to open the door, and in that door will be something you never imagined.
Love that. I love your psi-isms.
Yeah.
They're all so good. I'm going to leave everybody on that note. That was a beautiful thought.
Yeah, baby.
Cyril, great to see you.
Lovely to see you too. You're feeling better then?
I do. I feel a lot better. Debbie came home with probably COVID. Who knows? Every time she comes back from England, she brings some kind of funk with her.
They do a special kind of funk up there.
I mean, it's just brutal. And but no, I'm much better. A little sweaty, but not having the, coughing and sneezing I was yesterday. I feel much better. Everybody, thank you for the comments again. Keep them coming. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And with that, we will let you go.
Love you, man.
Sarah, love you. See you soon.